Here are 5 activities that busy people can do if they want to learn a different language. If you're a busy person, you might relate to these things. It's hard to sit down or find a time to learn a different language. Where do I even start? What activities should I do when I actually get the time? And surely I need to sit down and study grammar tables in order to actually be able to speak anything in the first place. So when have I got this hour or 2 hours per week to sit down? It just doesn't happen. In this video, I'm going to give you the solution to those things. So you might relate to one or more of them, but in this video, I'm going to cover all of them. There's many activities that you can do that you didn't know you could even do in order to get you closer to your language goal, whether that's reaching a conversational level or getting fluent. The only difference is the more of them you do, the closer to fluency you'll get. All of these options are free, but you can choose to pay for one of the options if you'd like to. However, that being said, let's dive straight in. Point number 1, listen to a podcast in your target language when you're commuting. Many people spend an hour or upwards per day, like going to and from work if it's half an hour, every morning and every evening. That time, instead of just being sat there on a train or driving, you could be spending listening to a podcast in your target language. Now, there's a lot of different podcasts. However, I'd recommend one that you actually have an interest in. For example, if you like football, or if you like sports or darts or any niche that you like, maybe it's cooking, listen to stuff related to that, because the last thing you want to hear is stuff about politics. It's boring. You want to keep things interesting so you enjoy it. So that's my first tip. Why is this important? Well, if you want to get conversational or fluent in a language, you need to train your brain or your ears what sounds mean, essentially. So if you hear words, if you're learning Spanish, you're hearing certain words in Spanish, it sounds like a mess. You understand nothing of it. However, if every day for, say, half an hour each way, so say an hour commuting every single day, you are listening to a Spanish podcast. It might be even the radio in Spanish if you have like internet access. However, if you're doing this, you don't have to understand a single thing. But over time, your mind will recognize patterns of the sounds because it wants to be able to understand what's going on. Your mind naturally, as a baby, we want to understand the context of things happening around us so we can make sense of the world. So naturally, your brain is good at figuring out patterns, and the more exposure it gets to the audio and to the sound and intonations and similar patterns over time, the closer it can get to allowing you to be able to understand what native speakers are saying to you when it comes time to it. So this is a crucial part of language learning, being able to listen to what's being said, and gradually over time, you'll notice that you understand more and you're having to think less about what's being said to you. So it becomes more natural and you have to translate less in your head and think, okay, what does that word mean in English or in your native language? And then, okay, cool, right, I know. It'll just be a case of, I know that word straight away, and you won't have to translate via the use of repetitive listening passively in your car or when you're commuting to work. The caveat or downside to this is that most people who are going to work already probably listen to the radio or Spotify or their favourite music. However, what you can do is when you're on the way there, listen to a podcast, on the way back, listen to music. So have a happy balance. You're not completely changing out the music, because otherwise, if you don't enjoy it enough, at one point you'll think, I can't be bothered listening to Spanish or whatever your target language is at this moment. I'll just listen to music and it'll be more fun instead. So keep a healthy balance to make sure that you can be consistent, because this isn't a 1 week solution. This is a case of the next few weeks and months if you're serious about getting closer to your language goals. So there has to be some sort of give in terms of what you're doing at the moment in your daily commutes, but make it as enjoyable as possible by picking something you're interested in terms of the subject of the podcast. Also, you don't have to be actively listening to it. You can be passively listening, which means that if someone says something, you could be daydreaming about your day ahead. That's fine. But subconsciously, your mind still recognizes the words, and if you hear it in a different context in the future, it will have heard it, no matter if you're consciously listening or not. So don't worry about, I can't understand a word, or I'm not really focusing on it. You don't have to focus on it for it to work. That's the incredible thing. On that note, I've created a free email course on how to learn a language despite having a busy lifestyle. It contains a range of tips and tricks and works for any language, suitable for all levels, and it helps you achieve your language goals in less time if you're really busy. There's a link in the description below to check it out. Point number 2, if you're queuing for something, whack out your language app, your favourite one, whether it's Duolingo, Memrise, whatever it may be, doesn't matter. Whack it out and do an exercise. If you've got 2 minutes spare, perfect. If you're waiting in the queue for McDonald's, super. If you're picking up a friend in your car and they're late getting ready, they're like, oh yeah, I'm just getting out of the shower now. You get there and it's got stuff. You're waiting for 10 minutes, whack out your language app. All you need is 2 minutes to do this. And what it does is it keeps your mind active. And you might have a few of them per day. It's not going to be, you're not waiting once per week, unfortunately. Things take time and you might be queuing for food or doing shopping in the queue. You can get out a language app And most people are on their phones anyway, like while waiting for a bus or waiting for anything, people get on the phone. Normally, you scroll through Instagram or you check your emails and see what's going on, or you check WhatsApp or WhatsApp groups, you keep up to date with things. However, swap that for your language app. And what will happen is you'll keep your mind refreshed on the words, because quite often they have a sort of spaced repetition feature on every app pretty much, which reminds you of words that you might have forgotten in the past. And that's perfect. So it means that every time, maybe a few times per day, the app is reminding you about words that you may have forgotten. And that's really useful because frequency matters more than intensity. So if you do that for 2 minutes a few times a day, that's better than setting 1 hour per week to do it. It's like brushing your teeth, really. You do that for 2 minutes every morning and every evening, instead of waiting for Sunday and then doing a big toothbrushing session. That's the idea anyway. That might be quite relatable for a lot of people, but it works massively like that for language learning because of the way that your brain has to learn and adapt and change to be able to understand and speak a different language. That's how it works. Point number 3, have 30-minute video calls with a native speaker. Now, it's all good and well listening to podcasts and going on your favourite language app. However, you will not get fluent if you do not practice speaking, coming up with words and phrases, having conversations with native speakers. If you're learning a language just to write in it, that's fine, you don't need this bit. But if you want to be able to communicate in a different language, then you have to do this bit. You have to have exposure to native speakers. You can't get around it, unfortunately. But 30-minute sessions are so much better than 1 hour sessions. Quite often when someone says, oh, I want to learn a language, they type in on Google how to learn a language, and a load of different language schools come up, and even language learning platforms online. Now, the default for a lot of people is to book a 1 hour language lesson with a native teacher that might cost a certain amount. However, if you do a half an hour session instead, that's so much better for 2 reasons. The first reason is you are able to more easily fit it into your schedule. If you've got a busy schedule, you come home from work, you plan it for the evening, it might put you off if you think, oh, I've got an hour of trying to speak Spanish or trying to speak your target language. I can't really be bothered and I don't feel too good, so I'm just going to cancel it. Whereas if it's half an hour, it's much easier to fit in, and mentally it's a lot easier to be okay with, because after half an hour it's over anyway. It's short and sweet, that's it. Secondly, our attention spans aren't that long. It tends to be after about 20 to 25 minutes we start daydreaming and not paying attention to what's going on. And the more you start daydreaming, the less effective every minute spent of that session is. So it's better to cut while you're ahead, basically. So half an hour is that sweet spot where it pushes you a bit. You've done enough speaking and listening to have some impact, but then you do that more often throughout the week. You do maybe 3 sessions of half an hour rather than one lot of an hour or something. However, I haven't mentioned that could cost. So if you pay a native speaker on an online platform, they normally cost. It might be between $5 to sort of $15 an hour, depending on who you're looking for. However, there is a free version to this, which is called Tandem, or any language exchange apps. Tandem is just one that I've used quite often in the past. However, you can do that. The caveat is that you have to spend half the session helping someone in your native language because it's an exchange of time. So if it's half an hour, you might do 15 minutes practicing your target language, then swap with that speaker. And then you're like, okay, let's talk English now. If I'm English and I'm speaking with a Spanish person, the first 15 minutes might be in Spanish, then we swap to English. And it's not going to be 100% like that, but it might be that if I get stuck on a word or something, they might tell me in English, we speak a bit of English about the explanation, then we change. But in general, it's more structured. The only downside is that it's hard to find, because you're not paying for it, it's hard to get commitment. That other person might just say, oh no, I'm busy now, sorry, I can't do it. Whereas if you're paying them, they'll be on time because they're getting money for it. So there's a higher level of commitment from people that you're paying to help you with your language goals. However, if it's like a language exchange, it might be harder. And also, you have to have a lot of text conversations beforehand if it's language exchange, before you build up trust to have a video call or voice call. But the point is, you need to have some exposure to your language, to speaking and listening to it every few days or a few times per week, and stick to half an hour slots if you can, rather than doing an hour slot, because it's better for your focus and to fit into your schedule. Point number 4. Now, this is one that I really like. So, listen to music in your target language while you're in a shower. Many people enjoy their showers. I'm one of them. I love having long showers. So what better use of time as well than when you're having a shower than to listen to music in your target language? Many people say that music has helped them learn a language, and especially English music, where I hear a lot of Spanish or Italian people when I'm speaking to them. They know lyrics of English tracks that I don't even know lyrics to. I just know the melody. So A really good use of your time, everyone has a shower at least once a day, you'd hope. So in that time, if it's say 5 minutes or 10 minutes or even longer, that's a perfect use of time to be listening to music as well. And it also puts you in a really good mood for the day. So why not? The only downside is that some music can be spoken really quickly and can be quite informal and colloquial. So bear in mind that that's just one aspect of it. And if you don't understand everything that's been said in the song, just enjoy it for what it is, because you'll understand the rhythm and the intonations and you'll get value from it anyway, even if you don't understand every single word. So it's worthwhile doing. And finally, this takes me on to point number 5, which is when you're doing all these activities, try and focus as much as you can on content that's only relevant to you. For example, if I wanted to learn Spanish for the sake of navigating around a city centre or being on holiday next year, for example, then the words for grandma or granddad or cat or dog won't be relevant to me. So I'm not going to be learning vocabulary that's not relevant for what I want to use it for. However, things like left, right, second left, or where is, or how far is, or how long does it take to walk to XYZ. That sort of vocabulary in phrases is perfect. Now, it depends what stage of the language learning journey you're at. If you're just starting out, focus on ready-made phrases instead, because you don't need to learn grammar at this point. Grammar would actually, if you find it boring, it would put you off learning. So you need ready-made phrases where the grammar is already constructed for you. Memorize it. Test it out when practicing in your 30-minute practice sessions with a native speaker. See if you get the pronunciation right. But in general, if you make grammatical mistakes, you're generally understood by native speakers. That's what happens. You'd be surprised at how wrong you can be constructing a sentence grammatically and still be understood by a native speaker based on the context, based on your body language. You can make a lot of mistakes and still get away with it. That's the good thing. However, more to this point, if you focus on only the content that you need to know, then you're not learning or you're not wasting a lot of time learning stuff that's irrelevant for you. So if I want to navigate a city centre, the words I don't need to know, I don't learn them. So I save time doing that. And my only time is focused on doing stuff or looking at the content that I'll actually use. It's more relevant for me, really, and it takes me less time to get to my language goals than it would do if I was trying to learn the whole of the language itself. Then obviously over time, as you learn enough language for your current scenario or for your situation that you want to use it in, you can always expand on that, and you will do, because naturally you'll speak to more people, you'll learn new words over time, but you'll have more confidence by that point because you'll be able to be confident in navigating around a city centre, and then you can take that confidence and it will give you more motivation to continue learning because you know that you're capable of doing it. You've told yourself, I can learn Spanish or whatever your target language is, and you'll take that, and then naturally more words and vocab and sentence structures will be built on top of that. But that's your starting point. Focus only on what you need to know for the reason that you're learning it. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, YouTube is really clever and it suggests videos for you that you'll find really useful for your language learning journey. So, up here or up here, not sure which side, but you will get a suggested video for you. And I'd recommend clicking on it right now so you can reach your language goals in less time. See you later.